So vertical motion word problems, part 2. A lot of times with a vertical motion word problem, a lot of times when they involve initial vertical velocity, they're actually going to give you a problem where you have to solve for the initial vertical velocity. So if I know that my formula is this, h equals negative 16t squared plus v0t plus s, yesterday we were solving only for t, the time. But there's no reason that I couldn't solve for a different variable. So let's say I had a problem that said something like this. Do you have a question? Yeah. Yeah. The starting height. Sometimes it's written as h0. Gary has decided he no longer wants to use a math textbook. He stands on the roof of the school and throws the textbook into the air. If the starting height, so the roof, right, is 32 feet. And it takes 2 seconds for the textbook to splat on the ground. What? I'm just going to say how fast did he throw it, but we're looking for the initial vertical velocity. How fast did he? So we're really just looking for the vertical part of how fast he threw it. How fast did he throw it up in the air? Because technically when you throw something, the velocity has a vertical component and a horizontal component. But we're not going to worry about the horizontal.
Maybe he just threw it directly straight up.
Yeah, maybe he leaned over the edge of the school and threw it straight up.
Yeah.
Okay, so the cool thing about this problem is that it's actually not a quadratic. Why? Because
you have
what do we know about this h? It's the height at any given time. So in this problem, what would it be? We're looking for
zero.
Yeah, we're looking for as much information as possible.
So it's going to be.
So we know that the height was 0 when?
When it hits the ground.
Which was when the time was 2 seconds. So we can rewrite this equation, but instead of t, I'm going to write 2.
Wait, can you wait,
But v0 is now a variable. And my starting height is 32.
Wait, is the video on?
Yeah. V0 is the initial vertical velocity. That's what we're looking for. That's how fast he threw it up in the air. Right? So now, if I simplify this, you're going to realize that this is not a quadratic. It's just a linear equation.
Because there's no square.
0 equals, there's no squared anymore. Negative 16 times 4. That's just negative 64. Plus, I would rewrite this now as 2 times V0 plus 32. So I'm going to combine my like terms. Negative 64 and 32 is negative 32. And if the 0 is bothering you, you can just write it as V. You could write it as X. It doesn't matter. It can be any variable. Right? So all I have here is the problem 2, any variable, let's say V, minus 32 equals 0. These are the same, right? Doesn't matter what we call the variable. We called it V0. So then we would add 32 to both sides. 2V equals 32. Divide both sides by 2. So the initial vertical velocity was 16. And the unit is feet per second in this type of a problem because we had feet and seconds. No. I would never write it.
I know, that's why I was like,
I would write it like this. So 16 feet, 16 feet per second. Right?
Yeah,
So we're just plugging, the 0 is just there. Hold on. I just said it's bothering me. I don't like it. It doesn't matter, right? This is just a variable. V0, initial velocity. But I could call the initial velocity anything I want. I could call it I. I could call it V. I could call it X. Yeah, it doesn't matter what we call it as long as we know that letter represents the initial vertical velocity. The reason that we call it V0 is in physics, the sub-zero usually means initial. It's like saying your starting velocity. What's your velocity at time 0? And so that's where that comes from. But if you don't like it, you can replace that with any variable that you want.
Or you could just write V, right?
You just write V. Yeah, it's totally fine. Okay,